So, on the day, so what time, you can give us all the briefing now. What time do we need to be there for? What's going on the day? When things going on, relays going on, the bazaars, you can do all sorts of different things. Give us a bit of a lowdown on what's going on the day.
Okay, well, on the day, I'll be there with a number of other staff from about 4 a.m. Doesn't mean that you guys will be that, yeah, 4 a.m.
I won't be there at 4. I'll be silly to my Weetabix at 4 a.m.
With it being that city centre setup, and like you've got the gantry and everything else, and you've got to remember as well, it's a Saturday night going into Sunday morning. You've got people just rolling out of Pink, and for people who aren't from Stoke, that's one of the nightclubs that's open the latest in the city. So yeah, you've got a lot to sort of tackle with at that time, but we just need to get set up. So we've got the walk that starts at 8:30. So we'd recommend walkers and walking relay, which is a new event we've got this year. We'd recommend those guys getting there for 8 o'clock, lining up at 8:15, and they'll go off at 8:30. And then for the main race, we'd recommend any time from then onwards. So it obviously starts at 10 o'clock. So we'd recommend you being there at the latest for 9:30. We'll start lining everybody up Huntback Street after the warm-up, which will be on stage at about 9:40. And then obviously everybody sort of lines up, and then that one starts off at 10 o'clock, and that's for the run and the relay. And then we've got the junior races. So that one's sponsored by Be Active, and we've got a 1K and a 2K, basically just loops around the city centre. And the 1K is starting at 10:20, and the 2K is starting at 10:20, and the 1K is starting at 10:35.
Are you running the 1K or 2K, Natalie, or?
I'm not running any of them. I'll honestly, after the day on my watch, I've basically walked a half marathon on that day. So in between running around here, there, and everywhere, I've probably done a good portion of a half marathon.
So do we get anybody turning up at 4 o'clock asking to run on the day with you, coming out of Pink saying, "Oh, I could run a half marathon"? I bet you get a couple of comments like that, don't
you? No, not quite. No, I did have a couple of youngish lads that I had to kind of move on. They were in a bit of a sore way, right in Fountain Square, where we were trying to set up, and one was kind of having a bit of a rough time. So we had to get the security guards to kind of move them on, because I was having to like clean sick up off the floor with water at 7 a.m. So it was all fine. Everyone got there. It was all good. But yeah, you do see some interesting beings around.
I'm sure you do.
Have you got an official starter for the race this year?
So the official starter will be the Lord Mayor, albeit obviously we've just changed administration, and I believe that they've come into post today. So I'll be honest, I don't know which councillor that will be, but it is in their diary, so it will be the Lord Mayor starting.
But you could always ask Ken.
Or Ken. Ken will be there.
Ken's local running royalty. Get him starting it off.
I think next year, for next year, we should sponsor some part, not the whole thing. If we don't get paid for doing this, so we
this is low budget, Rob.
I know. Well, it's not even low budget. There's no budget.
There's no budget, mate.
We will do something for. If we're still going, I'm hoping we will be.
Yeah.
In 12 months' time. In 12 months' time, when we're big and well known, and we're bigger than KSI and bigger than what's his name, Logan Paul.
You've got high ambitions here, Rob.
Absolutely, definitely. We will do some kind of sponsorship. I'm not sure what it'll be, but we could sponsor something. Maybe we could sponsor the gun to start the firing off. That's about it.
There you go. No, I think it'd be great to be a little bit more involved, and kind of getting runners on the show or previous winners and that kind of thing. I think it'd be really good to be a bit more involved, because this is the first time I've heard about your podcast. But obviously, it's since I've found out about you, I've kind of watched a couple of your other ones or bits of them. So yeah, I think it'd be good to be a bit more involved.
Yeah, definitely. And we're relatively new, 6 months in, and we're getting there with it. Like I say, we're being listened to all over the world now. But it's getting bigger and getting better. And we are, if anybody wants to come on the show, we haven't done this before, but if anybody wants to come on the show and they're listening thinking, I've got something I could say on the podcast, more than welcome to come on the show. So talking about runners, actually, I don't know if you can answer this, Natalie, or I'm going to ask Ken around the history of who is the PB holder for Potters Off?
Okay, so just a bit of history on it is and I'll bring in about the Heartbreak Hill and how Heartbreak Hill actually came onto the course. So the fastest time on a Potter's Half course was done in 2005, and it was that year. And you'll know this road, Rob, because you live there. We didn't go up Heartbreak Hill. Okay, so we went up Mornington Road.
Ah, yeah. So that was
So
not as it's steep, but it's not as steep.
it's not as steep. So we came up Leap New Road, took a left into Mornington Road. That brings you out at the top of Milton Road.
Mm.
And then the problem was, because we were doing a right-hand turn out of Mornington Road, and you're near the end of the race, we basically, as we shut Snee Green down because nobody could go anywhere. So when we had the debrief with the police after the 2005 event, they were really happy with it. But they said we're going to have to look at changing that right-hand turn out of Mornington Road. And so that was how Heartbreak Hill came in.
So it's the police's fault then?
Well, it isn't the police's fault. The police just said to us, you'll have to look at something else. And from an organising point of view, it was the easiest one to do. But we did it with trepidation because both myself and Don Shalley, who were runners, knew what a hill on that course at 11.5 miles, and we wondered what was going to happen. And I've got to say is that the people who live on Milton Road have made it this iconic thing that there is, because every year they turn out. They've made it their mission in life to get everybody up Heartbreak Hill, and they've even had their own signs made. So as you come along Milton Road, the signs there, you are now approaching Heartbreak Hill. So that's how the history of it came about. And just another funny story before I go on to the fastest times is a guy from Salford called Andy Jones. Andy Jones won it, and cracking runner, won races all over the country. I was talking to him after, and he says, when I go to a race, he says, there's only two things I'm interested in: where the start is and where the finish is. He says, that's all I'm bothered about. He says, I'm not bothered what's in between. He says, and I'm coming along this road, which is obviously Berwick Road. Mm. And he says, I see these signs. You are now approaching Heartbreak Hill. And he's thinking to himself, what's this I'm approaching? You know, because he says, I was on the flat, and he says, all of a sudden, he says, I turned right. And he says, I'd never seen anything like it. Not just the climb, the people were there. So Heartbreak Hill has taken on this iconic status within the race. And also, whereas that if you go and look at photographs from previous years, as either Mick Hall or one of his photographers, as they are always stationed near to the brow of the hill, and they take on some fantastic photos.
I've always ran past them. So I last year or the year before, I think it was the year before actually, the first time I ever did it, I had my daughter and my son at the bottom of Heartbreak Hill with their mum. So I ran past them, walked up until the photographer saw the photographer, ran past the photographer, then walked again, and then I think it was my partner, my fiance, my wife to be. She was at the top of the hill with my son, so I ran past them. So I ran and walked all the way up. I ran past the photographer to make sure I got a photo of me running.
Yeah. I'm trying to Google it to try and find. I've never seen this. I don't believe you all.
Okay,
I'll tell you when you come to see me at my house, you can run up it, man. I'll take you up it.
You'll see. But so the fastest time that's ever been run on the Potter's Half was that year, Thomas Abu, who won it that year. But in 2006, we changed to the course that we've got now, and the course record holder is a guy called Matt Clowes.
I know Matt. He used to go to school with my brother.
There you go, up in Staffordshire Moorlands. Yeah.
He was also on a running podcast. He was on a running podcast, so we don't talk about him. So that's the last time we mention his name, Ken, please.
Well,
he's a rival.
Yeah. Well, I've been trying to get Matt, because like I say, Matt's a local lad from Leek, and then moved away and ended up in Cardiff. And I used to bump into him at various events. And I've been trying to get him to come to the Potter's Half for years, and it just didn't fit in. And then I managed to persuade him to come along in 2018. And so Matt still holds the course record of 1 hour 6:53. Yeah. And he
1 hour 6, and that's with Heartbreak Hill.
1 hour 6:53. And then he came back the following year, and probably about 20 seconds slower. So Matt Clowes holds the course record. Even more impressive than that is the lady who holds the ladies' course record, a lady called Michelle Roscoe, and she set the record in 2010 and ran 1 hour 15.
Oh, my neck.
And came fifth in the race. So them are the two fastest times. So
is she local then?
Yeah. Michelle Roscoe. She lives in Silverdale now. She's retired from running now, but she ran for Great Britain in the Commonwealth Games.
Did she?
No, she's
There's another guest.
Yeah, there's another guest. Yeah. But yeah, so them are your two fastest times.
Wow, amazing. 1 hour 6, 1 hour 15.
What's your best Potter's Half time, Ken?
Well, there used to be a Potter's Half before the Potter's Half, if that makes sense, right? And that's where we got the name from. So back in the 80s, there was a local running club that doesn't exist anymore that was called Potteries Marathon Athletic Club, PMAC for short. And between 1983 and 1989, they put on a half marathon, what they called the Potter's Half. Right? Not the same course, and it didn't do Heartbreak Hill, but it was still a toughy one. And we finished at the local athletic stadium, Northwood Stadium. So my best time on that was 1 hour 16. But by the time we got to this Potter's Half, I was one of the organisers. 2005 was the years that I had to give up running anyway, so I've never been able to run this Potter's, this course. But yeah, I ran the original Potter's Half 2 or 3 times. I think probably not quite as tough as this one, but still a toughie.
Because there used to be a Potter's Marathon, I believe, or a Stoke Marathon.
Well, this is how Potter's Half came about. So the Potteries Marathon started in 1982, and it was called the Around the Towns Marathon. And basically, it was the brainchild of Don Shalley, and lots of the things. North South Roadrunners was the brainchild of Don Shalley. He had lots of sort of great ideas. But what had happened back in 1979 is the New York Marathon all of a sudden was starting to attract the masses. London Marathon sort of picked up on that. So the first London Marathon was 1981. Don saw what was happening in that and decided, right, we're going to have, if you like, a local half marathon. And that was in 1982. And that started in Moreland Road in Burslem and finished at Trubshire Cross. And there's actually a fabulous iconic picture, black and white picture, taken from above of all the runners lined up in Moreland Road. And I think Natalie's going to talk later about the exhibition. And I know I've passed that photo over, so that may be shown in the exhibition. But then in 1983, we moved it to Trentham Gardens. And that was a start and finish in Trentham Gardens, and it stayed there from 1983 to 2004. But in 2003, the numbers had started to drop, and the cost of putting the event on was started to creep up. And in 2003, we said, as if the numbers don't increase in 2004, that will be the last Potteries Marathon. They didn't really increase, as that we only got 800, which one is the event ran at a loss, but also we couldn't justify closing the city down for 5-6 hours just for 800 runners.
Yeah.
So we made the difficult decision of changing it to the Potter's Half. But one of the things that we wanted is that, first of all, we were looking at Trentham, and believe it or not, we couldn't get back to Trentham in 13.1 mile, because the one road in the city is you can't get a road closure on is the A34, because if something happens on the motorway, they divert it onto the A34. We couldn't get them. We could have a slight closure on it for 5 minutes where we got them out of Trentham Gardens, but we couldn't get them back on. So we'd always thought about having a city centre finish, because we thought there could be a great atmosphere. We went into talks with the council, and they were all for it, because obviously it's bringing people into the town and everything, and that's how we ended up with the with the city centre, start and finish. And that was in 2005. We were vindicated by a decision, because we went from 800 in the half marathon straight away to over 1100. Then the numbers, sort of crept up, and really, they sort of never really sort of dropped below, the 1500 mark. And I know I was looking probably about an hour ago, and I think Nat and the team will be really pleased, as all of a sudden it's clicking up towards 1700. Which I think, yeah. So I think as everybody will, be pleased with that, and don't forget, there's still 2.5 weeks to go.
I was going to say, can people still sign up to do it between now? When's the closing date, Natalie?
Closing date is, I'll be precise, it's 11:59 p.m. on Sunday the 4th. So you can still sign up until then. So yeah, the Sunday before you can still sign up, but there's no entries that week or on the day.
I know what's coming next. I can tell what's coming next.
You've got a week, Ben. You want to taste what Heartbreak Hill feels like? You can experience it in a couple of weeks if you really want to.
It's actually my mum's birthday on the 11th. So
I'm sure she's fine with that. I'm sure she'll be fine with that.
Yeah, she's going to cheer you on.
If I can get it sorted, I will, maybe. But I don't know.
So, Natalie, talk to us about how you go about organising such a big event for the local community. Is there a team behind you? Is there councillors that you have to contact, and road closures and all sorts? So talk to us about
that. Okay, I'll do it in a bit of a nutshell.
Yeah.
So really, we start planning sort of 12, 13 months prior to the next year's event. So obviously
you started already?
Well, we've got next year's dating, and then we'll start sort of following that, sort of promoting the following year's event. But it really kicks in sort of November time. So obviously applying for your race licenses, getting in touch with suppliers, with sponsors, getting all of that firmed up. In the City Council, we have a portfolio holder. So for Leisure and Wellbeing Services, newly appointed portfolio holder as of today. So I should know who that is exactly tomorrow. And we just basically take updates to them so that they can see how the event's progressing, financially how it's doing. Basically, we don't do it to make a profit. We do it just so it washes its face. The priorities for us as a City Council is getting more people into the city, and getting more people sort of taking part in that sort of physical fitness journey. But also it's the volunteering side. So if you can't take part, it's, you can still get involved. Like, you can come out and course marshal. We need help with handing out the medals, handing out water at water stations, or even just standing on the streets, cheering people on. Because from feedback, that's what makes this event stand out to others. It's that sort of support that you get as you're out on the course and that city centre finish. We have monthly working group meetings, and that's sort of with colleagues in highways, obviously in terms of the road closures. It's with colleagues in sort of tourism, it's with the city centre bid, the Pottery Centre, our lead sponsor, the Hanley Economic Building Society, Be Active, the sponsor of the junior race. So we regularly engage with those guys. And then it's also meeting with the charities. So this year we've got Dougie Mac, a local hospice. We've got the Alice charity who help families in crisis, And newly on board this year, we've got UH&M, so University Hospitals from North Midlands. And basically they just help and support staff across the hospitals in this area. So it's interesting, it's in depth. Obviously then you've got your t-shirts, your marketing plan, your medals. It's a big beast to organise, but it's different every day, it's enjoyable. And sort of the run up to, so now from about a month ago to sort of through to the event, it really ramps up. It's just sort of finalising everything, getting those race packs out, which Rob, I know you've got yours. My other half, he received his as well today.
Did you post it?
It's nice.
Did you post it or did you bring it home for him?
No, it was posted. So we've got HS Sports actually sort of lead on all of that. So they allocate all the numbers out. It kind of just takes the admin out of it for us. I'm a busy bee. So yeah, it's great to have them on board sort of helping out.
Should everybody have the numbers now by now then? Because I know
not everyone, so they're going out in batches. So if
Okay.
you've not got your number, please don't panic. If you've not got your number by Monday the 5th of June, drop us an email at the Potters Half email address that's on your confirmation email, and we'll have a look into it. But they are being sent out in batches.